this works. So, yeah, you know, you got the syllabus, 6 months ago, and the exercises you're supposed to do today. No, so I heard about we talked about it before some of you got in here, that you didn't get access to the syllabus really till last night on campus. Some people sent it out to
Actually popped up this morning.
Yeah, so don't worry about it, don't sweat it. I know you guys have nothing else to do but to focus on this class with all of your lives and all of your time. But we'll do introductions in whatever
I had
way.
my assignment done.
What's that?
So I got my assignment.
Ah,
No,
there
you
we go.
didn't.
We have bios.
I'm going to present my slide also.
Well,
You copied this in your
so
file.
I loaded this up in Canvas a month ago, but apparently there's a timer. Have you guys seen that? Where you have to put the date that it's accessible. And I didn't look at that date, and I think it was Jennerson that sent it out. So this was, the concept was just to kind of introduce ourselves. I know you all know each other very, very well, but I'd like to get to know you also. So what I'll do is I'll start out by introducing myself with kind of what I've shared at a variety of businesses and brands that I've been on, so you know, learn a little bit about me, and then maybe each of you can just get up in front of the room and share whatever you have, whether it's off the top of your head, a little bit about you, and you know, why you're excited about this class, and a little bit about your background too. So this is me. I'm a husband and father. I guess I should start there. My name's Jeff Wampler. That's my wife. On the top picture, that's actually in Paris. Her name is Maria Elvira Mendoza del Solar Chavez. So when I first met her, I didn't speak any Spanish, but now I speak Spanish, fortunately with some experiences along the way. We've been married 23 years. She's from Peru. And I met her my very first day in graduate school in the library right here at Xavier University. I walked in, sat down, looked up, and there she was. I remember exactly what she was wearing at the time.
Well, it doesn't sound like you were focused on studying. I remember exactly what she was wearing.
White V-neck sweater with jeans. Well, you know, I was in my apartment at the time, in my early 20s, and the phone was ringing off the hook. I couldn't study there, and ironically, it was a marketing exam for the next day. So I ended up going into the library. Didn't get much done there. But we have 4 kids. The oldest is Silvia Catalina. She's 21. I think we have a picture of us in London there. You can see her with kind of polka dot shirt. Sarah is 18, just graduated high school. Sylvia is at Miami, Ohio. Sarah's going to IU next year. And then Michael's 17, you can see him in the picture. And then Sophia is my youngest. She's going into 8th grade next year. She's 13. I've lived and worked in numerous cities throughout the U.S. and Latin America. And I'll give you just a brief overview of kind of my career, so you know who is this guy, and you know what kind of work experiences and life experiences does he have, and he's going to bring to the table. And feel free to ask me about any of it. But I kind of look at my career in 4 chunks. Okay, I joined P&G out of undergrad. I was a first-generation college graduate in my family, and at the time, my family lived in Kentucky and said, "Look, you know, you can go anywhere you want to go to college, but you got to go in Kentucky." You know, just from an in-state cost and tuition, they were going to help a little bit, and hopefully I was going to get a scholarship. So I ended up going to Northern Kentucky University and had a great experience. I lived in Louisville at the time, and I played college soccer there, got a Bachelor of Science in Business, worked throughout my entire college, all 4 years, started an internship at EF and had a great experience. We came out of there, and you know, I was applying to different companies. I had a couple of roommates. One was going to work for his father, and one was going to be a professional soccer player. I had decided to get on the market and apply and try to get a job. I think I had like 28 rejection letters. So there I was in my apartment dining room area. I put all the rejection letters up on the wall. And my friends were like, "What's up with this guy?" I mean, that's kind of weird, but it was motivation, right? It was motivation. I think I learned that through my youth and moving as a kid and in sports. But ultimately, I was in the process of moving to Chicago where my family lived, and a consumer products company was interviewing. So I interviewed, at the Drake Hotel in Chicago a series of interviews over the next couple of weeks to get a job for Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. And so I was hired there. And so for the 4 segments, the first segment was what I call sales and field merchandising. Okay, that was my first 7 years with the company. And so when I agreed to accept the job, I had to, it was like the military. How many have been in the military? Some military folks? 1? 2, yeah. So I had to agree to go anywhere they were going to send me for P&G, right? And I was going to merchandise shelves and cover sales territories as well. And so I said, great, that sounds like a lot of fun for me. And so I came into Cincinnati, went through the training, and the supervisor of the training listed on a flip chart, okay, this was back in the dark ages, all the cities where people in the class were going to go. And on that list, there were cities like, Lafayette, Louisiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Chicago, LA, New York, Boston, Fargo, North Dakota. Have you lived there? Yeah, so,
Turn on the light and go up.
incredibly diverse areas, right? And so I'm like, my goodness, what am I going to get? So I got Boston, which I thought was great. It was fortunate. The supervisor of the training session was also the supervisor of New England, so I ended up getting that. So I was in Boston, New York, Connecticut, Atlanta, and Cincinnati for 7 years, all in field merchandising and sales for food and beverage. So think Folgers, Sunny Delight, Crisco, Duncan Hines, Jeff, some of the brands we don't have anymore. Yeah.
Sorry, what does field merchandising mean?
So field merchandising is, so think of the Kroger, right? I don't know if you shop at Kroger anymore, but not as many people do. That's another story for another day. But so, think of the store shelves. I was a master at placing, the Duncan Hines box on the shelf next to another Duncan Hines box and making sure there was minimal airspace between the top of the box and the bottom of the shelf. I'm being facetious there, but it was merchandising the shelves. That was my first. I had a 6-month contract for P&G. The annualized comp, if I annualized that 6 months, was $13,000 a year. That was my first job. And so I had to perform for 6 months to get extended. And so I did, and it led to different sales jobs in those cities in food and beverage. So that was my first kind of tranche. I learned about the business in the trenches, right? It was really a gift. It was like sweeping the floors of P&G. So I did that for 7 years, picked up my head and said, okay, what do I want to do? I like P&G. I loved moving and traveling. It was fun for me at a young age. But business, law, maybe? All my personality profiles say law, trial law. And so I'm like, and then I took the LSAT and the GMAT, did better on the LSAT. I did pretty good on both, but so I was like, well, maybe I had to do this. So I looked at the careers and thought about it, and I thought, nah. Because it's probably 1 or 2% of the law that I was really interested in. But business, I had a lawn mowing business, a paper route, all kinds of odd jobs throughout high school and college. So I said, I think I want to get my MBA. And that's where I can identify with you, because for me, I was working, I got my MBA at night, and at the time I said to myself, I want something more. I want to challenge myself, I want to grow my skills and experiences, and I want more in my business experience, in my skill set, and in my life. To me, going and getting your master's is a step forward saying, I want something more. At least, I think it used to be, I think it still is. Maybe that resonates with some of you guys. So I ended up going to a business school, looked at the opportunity cost of going away, said, no way. This first generation college graduate, isn't going to do that. P&G covered the costs, so I decided to go to Xavier. So I finished my MBA, and I had a finance concentration. So first tranche was 7 years, kind of field merchandising, sales, food and beverage. Next 10 years, I moved into brand management. So think of that as, I worked on Metamucil, keeping America regular. Great party conversation. Smooth move, right? I can talk about it.
Hopefully neither one of those made it onto the label.
That was our 1-800 number. 1-800 Smooth. So I worked on Metamucil. I worked on Actonel Pharmaceuticals. You know that? That's now a $2 billion drug. I wrote the recommendation for that. You know that probably. Well, I worked on Alestra. Do you guys remember?
Oh, yeah, potato chips.
Fat substitute.
Yes.
And I prepared the case study for John Pepper, who took it to Yale for, I think it was undergraduate. business class to get ideas on what we could do better.
Is it also a substitute for Metamucil?
I was gonna say, it works a lot like
They're closely related, I can tell you that. You eat a bag of Lustre chips.
We could have a whole class
You
on,
don't need any.
you know, Letterman did a special on Olestra.
What's that?
Letterman did a special.
What
Yeah.
it leads out.
You know, 10 monkeys go into a room, try Olestra, 9 monkeys come out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was really fascinating. PR kind of challenge, but I worked on Olestra. I worked on Folgers as a brand manager, Millstone, Sunny Delight. So 10 years, right? So that was US. 7 years kind of sales, field merchandising. 10 years in traditional brand management, from consumer products to pharmaceuticals. Then I always wanted to work international. I was always very interested. I was interested in Asia in particular. But when you marry a Latina, you're going to go to South America. And so I had a great opportunity to go to Caracas, Venezuela. And I had a case study on that I'm going to share with you. So 5 years on snacks and beverages, all South America, 17 countries. And then I had fabric and home care. I had 18 brands in 5 countries when I was in South America. So I have a case study. Hopefully that's interesting for you guys today. That was my 3rd set. Then my 4th was, the last 8 years, was in a place called Procter & Gamble FutureWorks, which is a think tank for P&G, to come up with new, innovative businesses, brands, service models. Who's in services here? You're in services, you're in services, a little bit in services. So that was fascinating. I had loved that. Moved and we created Agile Pursuits Franchising, Inc. Agile Pursuits Franchising, Inc. We created a whole portfolio of taking our brands and extending them into the services space, ideas, and we launched Mr. Clean Car Wash and Tide Dry Cleaners, right? You're with, is it? Roto-Rooter, yeah. So I ended up building the franchise ecosystem for Agile Pursuits, which is a wonderful experience because we knew nothing about franchising before. I knew nothing about franchising before I got into that. Yeah. And I can talk more about that later. But, and then we ended up growing that. So 30 years in all, wonderful experience. I just early retired late last year. And now I've got a number of different things that I'm doing. Some of them are up there, I think. But one of them, well, I'm coaching a couple of teams. I coach 3 teams right now for my kids in soccer, especially after having played for years. I kicked off a business. Is the logo up there? Yeah, the Ninja House. So that's my brand. Just kick that off, have a website. And the concept is world-class branding with a strategy with a startup mentality. People like having P&G capability, right? They like, generally speaking, they like the discipline, the thinking, the analytical approach, the branding. They don't like how slow P&Gers are traditionally, how expensive stereotypically we are. So the concept is startup mentality. World-class branding strategy with a startup mentality. So I kicked that off, and that was a little bit of a brainchild. I went to Harvard in August for a leadership course, and I was thinking about how to reset, myself and for the next phase, and came up with this idea. So I've had a couple of clients, and I can give you a business card if you're interested. It's a lot of fun. I have 4 key buckets of work I focus on. One is the brand ninja. Okay, so I'm chief brand ninja, right? And if you look at my career, Agile Pursuits was agile. It was ninja-like. We were a separate subsidiary. For 10 years, I worked in that. And I launched things like a Folgers Cafe when I was on Folgers, inside of Marathon gas stations. I launched a laundromat in South America called Ariel, our brand there, Ariel Medic. So for a long time, I have always had an interest in innovative entrepreneurial brand ideas. So Brand Ninja Services is one. The other one's the Franchise Ninja, for obvious reasons offering franchising. Guest Services Ninja, which is customer service. Who's in customer service here? Here. Yeah, is it Fifth Third? Yeah, Fifth Third. And then Business Model Ninja is another one. And we're probably all in the business model. So that's a bit about my career background. So you can see a picture of my franchisees in the middle. That was my Tide Dry Cleaners franchisees at the time, right there. I think me and my daughter, the Bengals game, I think they actually won that one. I don't know. That was like 10 years ago. And a couple of nonprofits. So I'm on the board of the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. I didn't start out on the board. I started out as a mentor. I mentor inner city kids, and I've done that for over 20 years. It's been an absolute joy, and after I mentored a couple of kids, they asked me to get on the board. So I'm on the board of, we provide about 2,000 mentors for inner city children. So if you're interested in doing something after this is over, because I know you don't have any time right now, let me know. It's a great, great organization. And that's Jesse, Jesus Escobedo. He is right here. He just graduated high school. It's his picture. He was my mentee. He's now in Mexico on a Mormon mission. He's Latin, raised by Mexican, basically Mexican parents. He was born here, has 11 brothers and sisters, but it's a broken home, and a lot to the story there. I convinced him and his parents to go to a different high school here. He got there, graduated, now he's on a mission in Mexico for 2 years, which I think is a great experience. So a lot of passion for that. This is Jinga Joy Free Kicks for Kids. One of the things I didn't tell you I did when I early retired too is I thought I've been passionate about nonprofits my whole life, since I was 14, 15 in Special Olympics. But I'd always carried it myself with what I did at work or on my own. I didn't really involve like my family for whatever reason. I mean, I guess we talked about it at times, but we never did like these mission trips or anything. A lot of people do. So I talked to my son who goes to St. X here locally about something, this idea, and he's passionate with soccer. He plays for the Columbus Crew Academy up in Columbus. He drives up there 4 days a week. And so he said, look, I have a lot of soccer cleats that are gently used that, we throw away usually. Maybe we can find people that would be of interested in using these and having these. So we launched Jinga Joy Free Kicks for Kids. So it was a way to work with my son and teach him a little bit about serving others. We've collected and donated 400 pounds around the world, and in Cincinnati to Dater High School here locally. So that's a bit about me and my background. That covered just about everything there. Any questions or thoughts?
Do you know Juan Lynn?
Juan Lynn?
Yeah, Dr. Lynn.
No, where's?
No, because she does a lot with the youth mentoring in Cincinnati.
You probably run by each other. The name doesn't sound familiar.
And then is your wife from, what part of Peru is your wife from?
Arequipa, Peru.
Okay.
Have you been there?
No, I've been to Cusco and then,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, and then that's the capital city,
Lima.
Lima.
Yeah, she's from, it's like Texas, Arequipa. It's like you're either from Texas or you're from the rest of the United States. She's
Okay.
from Arequipa. They call it the ¿Habla español?
No, ¿dónde está?
The Independencia de Arequipa, the independent city of Arequipa. It's called the White City, and that's because it has volcanoes surrounding the city. You fly into these 4 volcanoes, and they're like covered with snow. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you have a
I was just, do you know John Basiliga?
Yes.
He was the head coach at MKTG for soccer. I went to Turpin High School, and he was the head coach there.
Oh yeah, was that back?
He was the head coach like when I was there. Like
Did you win state?
No, when I was there, yeah.
Yeah, you guys were good. Was Mike Wan there back then?
I don't know that name.
He's a good coach. I don't know him really well, but
So,
I played for somebody before.
yeah, I know John was really involved at MKTG.
Anything else? No? Okay, so that's a bit about me, and I thought it would be somewhat helpful. So my thought process is you guys could introduce yourselves. All right, now, the hope was you'd have a sort of creative way to do that. Not that that was incredibly creative, but it was a way to do it. But you can introduce yourselves, maybe talk a little about yourselves and who you are as a person, and then what you're hoping to get out of the class, because I would like to listen to that, such that, in this class and in future classes, I can help tailor it to what you're interested in and what would be useful for you. Does that make sense?
Sure.
All right, who wants to go first? And you can use this thing or not use this thing.
I'll go first.
I made a presentation.
Did you do it like last time? You guys are giving me a hard time all summer.
I've got
Deservedly so. See?
I have a draft of the book I wrote. that
I was in here earlier.
Do you know how to use the?
Last
Did you
night.
guys do it?
Hey, let me take a read.
Yeah.
Rich is gonna put a picture of himself up there. Let me just
Yeah.
Rick's
Story.
Rick's
I mean,
got a
Rick's looking
slideshow
really
thing
good
with
today, you
projector
guys.
on.
Like, he's
It is, I like that
Rick,
shoe.
you know those slideshow things like.
She's ready for a presentation.
Rick, get your cigarettes out. Rick's gonna get
Yeah.
his Kodak carousel.
He's got his, what
Is that what they're
overhead
called?
projector.
Kodak carousel, yeah.
I got overheads, baby.
Yeah, he's got his lamp, he's like, so here you go.
What's wrong with overheads?
Nothing. I love them.
Hang on, let me get a new
Rick,
one.
maybe a grab some coffee for us this morning.
Man, Rick, you made it to 8:30 before we
I'm
started.
know.
going to vote.
Let's see.
So basically,
I just don't know how to.
I did not know. I heard you have to.
Eat one of those,
That's
and
why
you're
I
like,
So you're good to go.
But I saw it. I just didn't know where.
That took me.
The true sliders are greasy, the breakfast sandwiches are not greasy.
Okay.
I was worried about not feeling.
It was great. For anybody who hasn't had, you should really, they're better than you might think.
What's the
You can check this off your bucket list.
White Castle's great.
These are the bacon.
Volcano effect, baby.
Looks good.
Volcano. From the deep depths of the water, it is brewed.
While Megan's setting up, Tide franchise, the dry cleaning,
yeah,
how many locations?
so we're over 70 now.
70?
Yeah.
Yeah. P&G feels good about it?
You know, and I have what I'm going to call, I'll introduce later, called a concept called marketing mission moments. In every class, I'm going to share with you a story that brings to life the marketing strategy and mission moment, and that's one of them I'm going to share. But we originally hired in a CEO with external experience.
Okay.
And there was a belief early on, I'm going to answer your question, that we could grow it like a Subway, like 70, 80 a year,
Yeah.
100 a year. And so this person signed up to do that, was a wonderful, wonderful person. But I had done an analysis that looked at higher priced, premium targeted kinds of concepts and looked at like 30 to 40 different franchise concepts when they launched their concept to qualify it, when they went into franchising, and then how long it took to get 10, 100, 500, 1,000. And I realized, oh my gosh, a dry cleaning proposition has to be in higher end
Absolutely.
demographic neighborhoods.
Right.
And there's no way we're gonna hit these numbers.
Right.
So there's a real long story there, but I ended up convincing the company that, look, we had to get to 3 or 4 the first year.
Yeah.
And then, 4 to 6, and then 6 to 8.
Well, I would suspect the cost of entry much higher for
Much higher.
Tide than a Subway. I mean, they're two very different
Very
models,
different.
right?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And so we got the right expectations, but still being aggressive.
Yeah.
But we had to downsize the organization. And so that's when they asked me to be the president and CEO. And then we grew at 10x from that point on. So slow, methodical, healthy growth. The P&G doesn't need it to deliver the numbers. It's never going to deliver the numbers. But it has a halo effect that I'll talk about. You know it because you're in franchising. You can see the benefit.
Yeah.
But their early executives at P&G would go visit Tide dry cleaners and see one little problem and say, what the hell are you doing to this brand? You can imagine that, right? And service recovery, it's critical to, right, businesses. And you have to have the mindset of, oh, we're going to have issues. And it's, by the way, it's not our brand, it's the consumer's brand. And so, do we want to be relevant maybe next time? We talk a lot about P&G, so sorry for the long-winded answer, but good question. All right. Is that you jumping out?
Yep.
No way. Okay, go
I am
ahead.
a very calculated risk taker. This is not scary to me because I'm attached to a professional with a parachute.
Okay.
So everybody figured I'd do something that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Since we all know each other, but I've been farming for the past 20 years.
Okay.
But before that, I worked in business development. This is a picture from Zanzibar, where I managed a consortium or a collaboration of organizations that were together working on a business development project in East Africa. That was my first job out of college when I realized that I wanted to learn how to do business in East Africa. And I basically took my resume and picked out some organizations I was interested in working for and went door to door, and after the first door, they called me as I was walking down to the next door. So I was there for a number of years before my husband was offered a job out here in Cincinnati. We had our daughter in 2016, and I had a really great job at Turner Farm, and so my husband quit his job and started a VW van vehicle restoration and resale shop. And my van is out in the parking lot, one of our vans is out in the parking lot right now, because I'll be camping at my new farm tonight. And we go on major road trips a lot, so this was actually this past year in August. This is in Glacier National Park, and this was where we decided that I should go to business school, and where I applied to business school to this, and was accepted to this while on this trip.
Oh, wow.
My wife.
It was actually on this hike that we decided that this is what I should do. So this is at my farm right now. It's a much smaller scale. What I'm showing here is the length of the taproot of the radish. So basically, like, there's a tool called a broad fork. There are multiple different ways of approaching farming, and there's a tool called a broad fork, which basically allows water and air to get down deeper into the soil, so your plants can access more of the nutrients. I studied biology and love the short-term and the long-term processes that are involved in farming.
That's interesting, you know, I saw it, I was at a company called Kinetic, have you guys heard of Kinetic? It's like a small VC firm, and somebody came in and pitched up an idea that would test the moisture of the soil by putting, like, you know,
Yeah,
this deep into the soil, and then with your iPhone, like, being able to monitor it throughout the course.
that
of the day.
exists.
Yeah, maybe that's it, or maybe it's one of the stuff that's really interesting.
Yeah, no,
It's out there?
yeah, it's out there. Actually, with our technology class,
Yeah.
yeah, and those, I got to learn a lot about stuff that I'm not myself using, but, or a lot of larger people are using. My life kind of comes in seasons, similar to what you said, the 4 parts, both from the sort of broader scale as well as on an annual basis. So right now I'm really tired, and I'm going to be really tired basically until the end of October. But in the winter time, that's when I get to make a plan for how I'm going to go about this.
So why are you tired? Just
I live in Lowland, and I work in North Bend, and
on a farm?
on a farm in North
Okay.
Bend, and
You're out there?
and I work 10 to 12-hour days.
Wow.
And in addition to that, I am the president of the board of Grand's Garden School in Loveland, and I'm working to transition the founder out into retirement, and so setting up a new board, and basically in return, she is watching my daughter for free.
I'm exhausted listening to it.
I also serve on the board of Cultivate Ohio Valley, which is working to grow more farmers in the Ohio region, because a lot of people are interested in local food, but there's just not enough of it currently, because a lot of people don't understand how to do small-scale farming in a financially profitable way.
Okay.
And that's one of the things I'm turning this farm into a profitable farm, whereas right now it's not the vegetable aspect of it. So there's my daughter. This is actually my birthday last year. I climbed Mount Olympus when we were in Salt Lake City. And so I did that in the morning, and then I came down and met my husband, who was working in the race industry for also about a decade. And now, in addition to his business at home, he is a fly-in mechanic, and he's actually in New York right now. So that was the morning, and then in the afternoon, we got to see the end of the race and hang out in the paddock. And the reason that I'm here is that I want my daughter to be able to have all of the excellent experiences that I have had, which I was able to do because I carried no debt. I had no debt for all of my life up till when we bought a house and I started this program. And I feel very, very close to that.
How'd you do
How did I shoot a rainbow out of my head? I am an eternal optimist, even though I often seem very critical. I doubt everything, but I believe everything's gonna be awesome. That's me.
that? Excellent, thank you. Have you guys seen this? Some of this?
Had we seen this?
Yeah, I was so curious, because you know each other for younger, thank you.
I'm not following that.
Who wants to follow the rainbow?
I'm still working on mine, so give me like
I probably
one more
will.
presentation.
You wanna go? You go on. Alright. I'll go after him. Can I throw it up on solstice?
You guys all have stuff?
No.
I don't work
As long as you can display it somehow.
Oh, shit.
Make sure the computer's plugged in.
Amanda, White Castles. Yes.
Nathan's my hero.
If I can get access to the screen.
Hit the solstice.
What, solstice what?
Gotcha.
Hit the solstice.
Just throw up that White Castle.
I definitely want to start reading it.
Yeah, just, that sums up your life.
Gives you a program.
Just throw up the White Castle
I'm
slide.
typing that.
If I'm late, it's Rick's fault.
Agenda, 166.
Yeah, she put the code on the screen.
One slide.
Alex and Sean like to show off their tech skills. There we go.
All right, so my name is Alex Lohr, and I just grabbed some pictures. I just ran through my phone and grabbed some pictures that I thought were representative of me. This group knows well, but it'll tie into professional experiences, I think, somehow. So family, food, friends, and fishing are the 4 F's of Alex's life. So on the left, you can see my family, my wife, Abby. On the far right is my oldest son, Oscar, who's 13. He'll be an 8th grader next year.
Mini me,
What's that?
mini me.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny. Some people say my kids look exactly like me, or that, and then other people say, yeah, they look exactly like your wife. But good blend of kids. Next to him is my son.
You have 3 girls and a boy?
2 boys and 2 girls.
Oh, the boys in the back seat.
Yeah. So to the left of him is my son, Kingston,
Yeah.
who's 7. He'll be a 2nd grader. On the bottom is my recessive gene, Camille, who has blonde hair and blue eyes and looks a lot like her mother. And an interesting story is that after she was born, talking about recessive genes, we got a call from Dayton Children's Hospital, and it went like this. They called my wife and they said, "Hi, Mrs. Laura, this is Dayton Children's Hospital. Camille's your daughter?" "Yes." "Well, we want to let you know that she tested positive for a gene that causes cystic fibrosis. Can you bring her into the hospital?" So anyway, we brought her in. It turns out that she does indeed have one of the genes. So she's a carrier of cystic fibrosis, which means that Abby or I am a carrier of cystic fibrosis. But with good fortune, she doesn't have a 2nd gene, which would cause her to have disease. She's just a carrier. But she's, and then to her left is my daughter. So Camille's 3, will turn 4 on July 8th. To her left is Genevieve, who is 10, and will turn 11 on July 3rd. 3 kids who